Hello. All right, so the title of my paper is The Deportation of Russian Germans to Kazakhstan in 1941 and Their Subsequent Fate. So it will focus on the initial deportations in the fall of 1941, between 3rd September 1941 and 31st December 1941. And it will also talk about their initial problems in arriving and the conditions, both legally and materially, they faced upon initially arriving in Kazakhstan during the Second World War, particularly the years 1941 to 1945. But I will do a brief demographic history of the group all the way up until modern times at the end, so you can see how the population has grown and shrunk uh, due to various factors. So, in the fall of 1941, after the Nazi invasion of the USSR on 22nd of June 1941, there was, of course, the mass deportation of ethnic Germans in the Soviet Union to eastern parts of the USSR, most notably Siberia and Kazakhstan. The Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic receives more ethnic Germans than any other territorial unit in the USSR at this time. The Siberia is destinations are divided into four parts: two Krais, Altai and Krasnoyarsk, and two Oblast, Omsk and Novosibirsk. So the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic receives roughly half of the almost 800,000 ethnic Germans forcibly relocated by the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs during this time. And then there are a mass deportations from the following areas where at least some of the deported ethnic Germans ended up in Kazakhstan. So, in chronological order, after the Volga German Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic and Saratov and Stalingrad Oblast, which is ordered on 26th of August 1941 by the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the Council of People's Commissars, and then later the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet issues a decree ratifying this on the 28th of August 1941. The next groups are from the North Caucasus, Moscow, Tula, eastern Ukraine. Western Ukraine has already been overrun by the Wehrmacht. Transcaucasus, mostly Georgia and Azerbaijan, only a few hundred from Armenia. Kalmuk ASSR, Kubyshev, and those that were not initially evacuated from Crimea on the 15th of August into Ordzhonikidze Krai and Krasnodar Krai and Rostov Oblast before being sent eastward into Kazakhstan with the other ethnic Germans in the North Caucasus regions. So by the 25th of November 1941, out of almost 700,000 deported ethnic Germans in the European parts of the Soviet Union, eastward, 310,195 are registered as having arrived in the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. And the big problems, of course, are registering them, issuing them with documents, stamped passports that limit their residency and movement, getting them to work on the kolkhozes, housing and feeding them. Large numbers die due to malnutrition and disease and exposure due to lack of proper housing, food, warm clothing, medical treatment, fuel, and other necessities. These are all in very short supply for the ethnic Germans who have been deported into Kazakhstan and elsewhere. Also, rooting out of, quote, fascist agents. This problem is largely solved by the mass mobilization of ethnic Germans into the labor army, the Trudovaya Armia or Trude Army, as it becomes known informally, mobilized Germans who are used for forced labor under NKVD supervision, both in corrective labor camps of the Gulag at first, when it's just men, and then later men are sent to work under the People's Commissariat of Coal, and women People's Commissariat of Oil. So a very large number of people that are mobilized come from Kazakhstan. Out of a total of 316,000 mobilized Germans in the Soviet Union, at least 72,000 and perhaps as many as 121,000 were either people who had been deported to Kazakhstan in 1941 or had been living there prior to 1941. So this reduces greatly, along with deaths, the population of ethnic Germans in Kazakhstan. So it goes from almost 400,000 people at the end of 1942 to under 300,000 people in 1st of October. It lose about 100,000 people, about a quarter of their population. Unknown how many of these died and how many were mobilized, but it appears that tens of thousands did die at this time. In 1945, there is a decree to place most of the local Germans that were there before 41 under special settlement restrictions. Almost 57,000 of them, only 107 evade this. Also, almost 40,000 forcibly repatriated from Germany and other parts of Europe as the Soviets advanced in 1945. So by 1st January 1953, about 450,000 ethnic Germans in Kazakhstan as special settlers, 337 deported, 62,000 local, 42,000 forcibly repatriated, and a little less than 6,000 who had been local Germans that were mobilized into the labor army but were never deported. And so the census data, 1989, almost 1 million, over 950,000 ethnic Germans in the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic, the last Soviet census. In 1999, Kazakh independence, it's greatly been reduced by emigration back to Germany, 353,000. And 10 years later, another Kazakh census, again, greatly reduced by massive emigration back to Germany, down to 178,000. It's now roughly stable due to the reduction of emigration. All right, but we can see the population quadruples in 1941 due to deportation, continues to grow throughout the Soviet period, particularly after the Second World War, and then greatly decreases in the 90s and beyond due to emigration. So it's kind of a brief background, and so I've exceeded my 8 minutes here, so I will wrap it up now.